again, welcome back. Today I'm working in that Happy Medium album with some photos from the morning before the opening ceremony and a little event called All the Bells. And it was basically kind of a modern art installation where at a certain time on a certain day an artist organized for all the bells in the country to ring. And so there was a big congregation outside Big Ben, so you could hear the bells of Big Ben and Westminster Abbey, but you could also hear from the bridge the bells from all over. You could hear all the way down to St. Paul's, you could hear the bells in Lambeth and both directions and everything. And then loads of people gathered around other places where there were bells or just wherever they happened to be and rang bicycle bells, triangles, anything they could bring along, and even there was even an app where you could choose the different bell peal. Like you could have the bells of Big Ben, you could have the bells of St. Paul's, and it would just play it over and over on your phone at the set time. So it was kind of crazy and yet really nice at the same time because all these random people just showed up to ring a bell. Why not? And these are the photos I took. They're not amazing, but I thought that they capture some things. So this was the crowd as I was walking up. So this was before it started, and there's already, the queue is already over half the bridge. And that's the only one where you can actually see Big Ben clearly. And this one I thought was funny because you could see lots of people doing this, using one hand with the phone to take a picture and then ringing a bell with the other. So she has her bicycle bell in the other hand. And then these two were media. So there's a real mix of people who looked really casual and people who were like on their way to the office. This is a whole news team here and one here. And then this one is basically the same shot twice with just a slight second delay. And I originally just put one in and then realized, wait, there was a way this could work that I would need two. And that is because, see how everything is landscape? Oh my goodness. I don't know why I didn't think to turn the camera, which is really silly when you're standing at the base of Big Ben. Of course you would take a portrait, but apparently on this day I did not. So I would like to highlight this photo so that it stands out from the others, but I don't want to reprint it. So what I'm going to do is put it on a mat and then layer it over these two and line them up so it would actually be one print. And I could just do it with one print and cut it in half and spread it apart with this photo in the middle. But because I already had the two prints, why worry about that, right? So here's my plan. I'm going to use my album kit, but just an update on my album kit. I didn't put any doubles in there, so I had to go find some paper that would work for the background. If you're working with solid cardstock, double pages are a little bit simpler there because you can just do 2 sheets of solid cardstock. But if you are using pattern paper and you almost always only buy one of the pattern papers, then you're a little bit stuck. What I did was to start looking at stacks of paper where you buy it in the paper pad instead of the individual sheets, because they often have 2 of all the A sides. Or this one I did happen to have an extra because I had used it for a project where I had lots. But I had to do some searching. The other thing I did when I was looking through my kit to see if there was anything that would work as a background for 2 pages was to realize I've already used up all the turquoise papers that I had put in the kit. So I had to add in a couple more turquoise aqua type papers, but I just did that really quickly by just scanning my paper shelves and seeing what I could find, and I've added these 3. Okay. So I want to work in a horizontal line. It's going to give me a lot of open space. So this one's going to go on top of there with a big mat. And I have 3 more for over here. I think I like this one a little more than these. And so I'm not using a sketch this time. I am figuring it out as I go. And now I'm wondering if that decision to split that photo is the best idea or not. Okay, I think I might do something like this, but that Big Ben is going to be on a really big mat now if I'm going to separate it up like that. But I like this idea of having the big blocky line, and there's going to be pattern paper there to soften it, but then take these two and separate them a little. Or it might just be that this one ends up here. What if I put a 3x4 card next to this? This might be better balance. I'm going to build the paper and then figure out the photos on top. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be one where there is a continuing design over the top. And I do this with blocks of paper that can be no bigger than 6 inches because I only have one sheet of them and I want them to go all the way across. So I take the papers and cut them into strips so that I can have 2, and then I'll show you how I layer them across the middle. I have 4 pattern papers cut into 2 boxes each. So I have these that are 3x12, 4x12, 5x12, and 6x12. So they're all a little bit different in size, but I have enough to go all the way across. Now I'm going to use just slightly less than that full width. But what I want to do is layer them up, and I'm going to put this adhesive right on that edge. So I work with one side first, and I'm going to put all the excess over this middle piece. And I work from the biggest piece to the smallest one. And I'm just offsetting the edges wherever possible. And then put the other page over the top here and match up the other side. Now, I don't need to match up this end with that end. I just need to match the height so that they go across in a nice smooth line. Now with all those patterns in the background, time to figure out how to put my photos onto the page. And I will say, I find this easier when you have at least a mix of portrait and landscape, or you've got some smaller photos, because this is a structure you can balance all sorts of things. You could have photos like this, little small ones, and go all the way across. So you could have something like 8 little square photos and balance them up and down. But that's not what I have. I have a whole bunch of landscape 4x6s. So we're going to see how this works. Well, I want my Big Ben picture to be a little bit more prominent. I was wondering if this black and white, no, I don't particularly like that in the mix. Okay. I think it might need some pink behind it though. I'll have to find something in the kit. And I wonder, I originally thought about using these whole photos, but I wonder now about cropping down a little bit. Because I think this is a stronger photo if you can see exactly where the interesting bit is. And this is not not the best part of the photo. And likewise, this is kind of the stronger part. So maybe it's a case of doing some cropping and having these two be the big 4x6s and everything else ends up a little bit smaller. Okay, I think I am getting closer. I cut the 3 less important photos down to 4-inch squares, and then I felt they were a little bit lost on the pattern background. So I have cannibalized that wood grain paper that's back there. So I pulled it up and cut away the part you can't see, and added and cut some mats for these photos. And I probably didn't need to cut them quite so big. I did them nearly 4.5, I think, and maybe I only needed 4.25. Mats look too big to me. I think I'll trim them down a little bit. Then I just want these to line up across the width here. It's going to be about there. I could also use a ruler. I'm not sure what's gone wrong there. Those are not even at all. I think the top edge is going to be more important because I think the bottom edge is going to be overlapped by this. Yeah, you won't see that they're not particularly straight. Why don't I just go ahead and do that then? That one there. And I did add pink mats to these photos just to pull this pink paper in, and I wasn't loving the coloring of the photos next to the aqua in this particular example, but I liked it once it was broken up by that warmer pink tone. And this one will overlap in this direction. Now I realize I've done pink and turquoise on this layout even though there's not pink and turquoise in the photos. It's because there's so much pink and turquoise in the album that it just feels right to me. These are the colors that make sense to me and the memory. But I wanted to put them with the warmer, the cream and the wood grain, because this particular day it's really gray. It was the fog had not cleared that morning yet. And there's so much brown in the photos. I didn't want to do it all brown because then it would just seem really murky and not celebratory at all, and it really was uplifting and happy memory. So I'm hoping that balance of pinks and turquoise with a little bit of the creamy neutral helps everything. Okay, so my photos are in place now. I need to figure out where the journaling and the title is going to go and add some embellishment. But I do have this continuation on this particular one. Now, this is something for you to look at. This may not bother you at all. This may be driving you mad. I did not pattern match these two patterns, or the dots. The wood grain is pretty easy. The others take some thought in where you're going to cut the paper, and I didn't do that. And here's why. If I were working in an album where it was going to be exactly like this, then I might. Or I could get rid of that problem by having other elements on top of the join, like I could have a photo here that's going to cover, or a photo that comes right to the edge, so then you wouldn't see the pattern doesn't match. But because I'm going to have it in a ring binder, it's going to be separate like that, about that much, and that's not going to bother me quite so much. But I show it to you and bring it to your attention because I would rather you be aware before you make a layout and know how much this does or does not bother you, so that you can get it right for you and your process. I've cut a bunch of different little pieces from one 12 by 12 cut apart sheet, and this is going to give me a place to journal over here. And then I'm going to use these little different tabs and things to have a little bit of a diagonal line here. I wanted to bring this one in that gives me a little bit more color. And that one up there. And then this one to bring the wood grain down to the bottom edge here. This one, I'm just looking at this natural corner made by the D and popping that one there so it has a little bit of frame to it. And this is a completely different look than the other patterns I'd used, but I just thought it was next to these on the sheet, and I just thought it was quite nice. And the tones, the colors are the right tones for this. So I can put that up there. I'm going to add a little more embellishment to that. But next I want to do my title, and this is a page that's not exactly next to the other one that has the brush lettering, so I'm going to go ahead and do a brush lettered title for this page. Going back to that idea of this center line and how your album setup can change that. If this were in an album where I was definitely going to have it right next to each other, and by the way, that's not something that you cannot do in a binder. You can totally do it in a binder. You do it with the page protectors. You have three options really. You can buy page protectors that have 2 on one set of binding holes so that it's already seamed there and it will just open up and keep the pages together. You can buy them pre-made like that. Or you can take 2 normal page protectors and put them together with your own seam, either using a sewing machine or needle and thread, or something like the fuse tool that lets you melt the plastic together. And anyway, so you can do that in a binder if you want to have that look. Obviously it wouldn't work for every single layout in the album. If I were doing that, then I could have this title go right over the edge like that. But in this case, because I know I'm going to have it separate, if I separated that title and had just this much here, I don't think it would be legible at all, especially not with big handwritten type stuff. So I'm going to keep the title on this side, and I'm going to finish the title with letter stickers. I looked at my thickers for this just to pull in the same thickers that I'm using throughout the album, but I think that the color is too bold. It doesn't match this pink or any of the other pinks. It's a real fuchsia hot pink type color. So instead I'm going to use the flat stickers. Oops. And using this bottom line here helps draw in that paper layering from the very beginning, which I know is very covered up by now, but I do find that it serves a big purpose even though I'm covering most of it up, because it just kind of gives a road for everything to follow. Few more little words and to bring that pink and the aqua together, I think. And I wanted to bring more of the pink over to here. gonna need something with some more dimension. I was going to go with some small wood veneers for this one rather than jump straight to the enamel dots, because I thought that might play up the neutrals and it would bring the wood grain back. Maybe I just throw in butterflies because there's a bunch of them at the top of the jar. And sometimes that is exactly the decision I need. Just let the jar tell me what wood veneer I should use. Those are all really big butterflies. Can I find a small one? So I have 3 of the large butterflies and 1 smaller one that I'm going to pop over here with the journaling. And then I thought I might also dress up the title a little bit more with 3 wood veneer hearts from, or in a different color, I mean. I didn't make them this color, they came that way. But it's just a different finish to the wood. And I think this one would benefit from some gold. So I'll do a few little splatters of gold. Just around the same areas where I added the butterflies. Do I want a few little dots as well? Why not? I just have these 3 left, so I might as well put them in over here. There we go. And that's where I'm going to leave that one. So I've accomplished that goal of getting a bit more of the brush lettering into this album. And big double page with 2 in the end that stayed at 4x6. But then the additional 3 at 4x4. So a total of 5 photos. And I didn't have to pick and choose which ones. I just did a little picking and choosing of what was in the frame. But I'm happy with how they came out. Less direct process than following a sketch, but actually a little bit quicker because the style is less embellished than the version that I did yesterday. So have a try and see where you find your balance to be and your happy medium in your process. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.